Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
Four days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the U.S. declared war on Germany. This is where our story begins. This is George Sack, a medic in the U.S. Army during World War II. Here, he is fighting on Omaha Beach during the invasion of Normandy. Let's go back and see how his career in the military first started. This is his story.
I was in the Company C, 104th Medical Battalion, attached to the 175th Infantry, 3rd Battalion of the 29th Division.
While walking by the 104th Armory in Maryland, George Sack was intrigued by a picture of a soldier in a beautiful uniform, and he thought to himself, this would be a great place to enlist. From George's base in Maryland, he traveled to Camp Blanding in Florida, where he received military training. When George and his fellow soldiers arrived in Florida, they assumed, because of the hot weather, that they were training to go to the Pacific. However, they would later find out that this was not the case. After training in Florida was finished, George and his unit took a train to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. Camp Kilmer was a staging area for troops during the war. George and part of his division then boarded the Queen Elizabeth and departed from the Hudson River. They had absolutely no idea where they were going. The Pacific? The Atlantic? No one knew. While the ship was sailing through the Atlantic Ocean, George and the rest of the troops realized they were traveling east towards Europe because the ship was following the sun. George landed in Scotland and was immediately driven to England along with the rest of his division. George trained for 2 years in England before being brought to Normandy.
Eisenhower comes on the intercom to all the ships at sea. He said, Army, Navy, Airmen, Allied forces, the eyes of the world are upon you. You are about to undertake the biggest military operation the world has ever seen. And then his final words were, and it still lives with me, some of you people will not be coming back. And I'm looking, maybe that's me. The sea was very rough, very, very rough.
As George's boat moved closer towards the beach, the soldier driving the vessel was afraid to go any farther because of the possible underwater mines.
He decided not to go in where we should have been. So he saw one of the Higgins boats 1,000 feet up beach. He decided to go in where that vessel was coming out. So he dropped us at that point. Germans were up on the ridge, pot-shotting at us. No place to hide. The thing is, we had to get to what was known as the Verville Draw.
Because the driver chose safely to maneuver around the underwater mines, George now had to run an additional 1,000 feet to get to his destination, the Verville Draw.
The dead were piled on the seawall like core wood. And the people were floating in the water you cannot believe. Face up, face down. They never made it to the beach. And the water really was red, as close to the beach. And that's why they called it Bloody Omaha.
A few days after the beach landings, George and his squad went on a patrol.
And we started to come under artillery fire. We decided to leave and go back to the company. When I got back to the company, there was bedlam. My staff sergeant had a chest, a high breastbone chest. That's hard to explain. A little fella, he was small, Irving Perlman. I knew him from Baltimore. And he would say to me, "Georgie boy, this is my hope chest." And he kept saying, "Georgie, this is my hope chest." I says, "Irv, what do you mean this is your hope chest?" He says, "You know, someday I hope I take it home." Well, Irving Perlman got hit with a piece of shrapnel in his hope chest. It killed him. He was my staff sergeant. So when Irving Perlman died, he's buried over on top of the hill in Normandy. I became staff sergeant. That's how I became staff sergeant. That's not the way I wanted it. He was one of my best friends. I'll have to tell you, I was never a religious man. And they say there's no atheists in a foxhole. Well, half of my life was spent in a foxhole. And I used to pray every night. The only thing I knew, and it sustained me, was the 23rd Psalm. Do you know the 23rd Psalm? Well, think about the words and how it applied to me. Every night in my foxhole, I said the 23rd Psalm.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo achzar, bin ot deshe. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leads me on paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Hashem forever.
I got too many memories.